Here I am, trying to nurse this Manchester United-induced hangover by drinking gallons of low-grade coffee. Manchester City 6, Manchester United 3. Who are the noisy neighbors now? Well, in this video, I'm going to be analyzing two sequences from the Manchester City and Manchester United game in order to demonstrate and show you exactly the one issue that I think Manchester United has, and without correcting that particular issue, there is no way we are ever going to be able to compete with the top teams in England and in Europe. So let's go on and let's analyze the first sequence. Okay, so let's watch the first sequence. Now, this sequence is particularly interesting because it provides a contrast between how Manchester City players press and how Manchester United press. It's amazing because immediately you can see the difference between Manchester City and Manchester United. So let's watch this sequence. So obviously it starts with David De Gea. Now, this was a set piece for Manchester City. So obviously the Manchester City players are going to start going back into position. Now, David De Gea looks at Tyrell Malacia. Is a good option. But look! The moment he sends the ball towards Malacia, look at this. Bernardo Silva is coming in to press with intensity. He's sprinting towards Malacia to force him to make a mistake. Now Malacia gives the ball to Rashford, and guess what? Oh yeah! Kyle Walker doing the same thing. He's pressing, coming in as fast as possible towards Marcus Rashford. And please look at Marcus Rashford. He is boxed inside Manchester City players. All of them are back in position. All of them are pressing like a wolf pack. This area right here, at least one of Scott McTominay and Christian Eriksen should have been here. And this area right here, that's where Bruno Fernandes should have been to provide options for diagonal passes, to create triangles, and to keep the ball. But here Rashford has no options whatsoever. So he's going to go long towards Anthony. So there you go. Rashford keeps the ball, goes towards Anthony. Now Anthony keeps the ball, but again, same problem. Boxed and no options. Diogo Dalot, who is right here, should have in fact been right here. He should have sprinted into that position to provide width and to make those runs. Why? Because even if Anthony does not pick him as an option, by making that run, Dalot would actually take one or two Manchester City players with him, hence providing more space for Anthony to breathe and hence more time to make a decision, which could be a much better decision, a much higher quality pass for us to actually create chances and be dangerous. None of that happens. Anthony, just like Marcus Rashford, doesn't have any options. The Manchester City players are back in position way faster, but we don't show any urgency in moving forward into dangerous positions so we can create something. Now, Dalot will get the ball from Anthony, and guess what? Who's being pressed by Diogo Dalot right now? Bernardo Silva, who was pressing Malacia in our left wing, and now he's pressing Dalot in our right wing. And wait again, because you'll see Bernardo Silva again. He was also pressing Rashford when he was carrying the ball. How is this possible? So, Dalot under Bernardo Silva's pressure puts in a pass, low quality pass. Now Nathan Ake has the ball. Compare this to Manchester City. If Nathan Ake was a Manchester United player, you'd have Manchester City players just breathing up his neck. But look at that. These two Manchester United players right here, Rashford and Anthony, nothing. Nothing at all. Now, Nathan Ake has all the time that he needs to pick up a good pass. He goes for Haaland. Now, again, same thing with Haaland. Look at Scott McTominay. Doesn't go and challenge him. That's it. He just runs around him. Haaland has the ball, plays in the ball towards Grealish. Look, all the time. He's got all the time that he needs to pick the right pass. Now, Bernardo Silva is running between Varane and Diogo Dalot. And there he goes. Through ball towards Bernardo Silva, who puts in a cross. And then Haaland. And that was a pretty good chance for Manchester City, but it doesn't matter. The fact that they didn't score it doesn't matter because they had 10 more or 11 or 12 more of those chances and they ended up hammering us. But what is really curious about this is that this demonstrates one of Pep Guardiola's main principles in his footballing philosophy, which is that you have to earn the right to play. I don't care how technical you are, you cannot show how good you are, you cannot showcase your talent without the ball. That means that you have to be obsessed about winning the ball as soon and as fast as possible. And that's what the Manchester City players do. But Manchester United players, they want to hide from the ball. It's the opposite. Manchester City's players, they love the ball, like bees on honey. Manchester United players, hot potato, they don't want the ball. That's the difference. Now let's look at the second sequence. And the second sequence is Phil Foden's goal. His first goal, because he scored 3 goals. He scored a hat-trick and so did Haaland. Fucking shambles. All right, let's watch the sequence. All right, so the second sequence, which is Phil Foden's first goal around the 7th minute, starts, of course, with the ball in Phil Foden's feet. Now, this goal really angered me because there are so many amateurish mistakes that were made by the Manchester United players. We handed this goal to Manchester City. This goal should not have happened. So let's watch. So Phil Foden has the ball. Now, look at it. First of all, a lot of time on the ball. Manchester City never afford us this kind of time on the ball. Anthony, Sancho, Bruno Fernandes, the moment they get the ball, they have 2 or 3 Manchester City players in their face. Look at Phil Foden, so much time. So De Bruyne makes a run into the box. He just drags the whole... He's just 3 Manchester United players are going with him. Why? And now look at this. This is what angers me the most. Look at Phil Foden. Everyone is standing off him. And look at the Manchester United players. Look at our defensive line. 6 Manchester United players in a straight line inside our box. Manchester City only has 2 players in there. And yet we find a reason to put 6 of our players in there. What angers me as well is this. Scott McTominay, why is he there? That's Diogo Dalot's position. And Diogo Dalot is in Scott McTominay's position. But both of them are out of position because at least Scott McTominay should be here covering Jack Grealish. Same thing with Christian Eriksen. What are you doing here? Because as Jadon Sancho presses Phil Foden right here, Christian Eriksen should be in this area in order to make it as hard for Phil Foden as possible. But no, Christian Eriksen is here. Why? No, let's see what happens. So because Scott McTominay is not with Grealish, Grealish is available to receive the ball. Now, of course, Anthony is the one who has to press him because Scott McTominay is not there. So, of course, back to Gundogan to Cancelo. Now, I want you to focus on Varane right here because Varane is going to commit a cardinal sin in a second or two. Okay, let's look at Varane. So, Varane obviously looks over his shoulder and then he sees that Lisandro Martinez is with Haaland. And the way it looks like here, Lisandro Martinez, okay, he's managing the situation. You would fancy him to actually make a block, or it's going to be difficult for Haaland to get at the end of a cross. So Varane, by actually seeing Lisandro Martinez taking Haaland, he should not prioritize Haaland. But what he does instead, as Bernardo Silva gets the ball, Varane goes to the near post in order to attempt to block a cross that would be coming from Bernardo Silva towards Haaland. But by doing this, he's affording Phil Foden all of the space that Phil Foden needs to make a dangerous run and to score a goal. And of course, Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, these kind of players, you don't need to ask them twice. They are, of course, going to pick the right option and score a goal. But look at Varane. So much space because he saw that Lisandro Martinez was with Haaland, so he should have prioritized Phil Foden, not the other way around. And then now he just left Phil Foden in just acres of space. Just amateurish mistakes. This is the kind of mistakes and positional play and decision making that you would expect from Sunday League football. You know, those football games, you know, with like people in their 40s with like beer bellies and a bald head, people who smoke as they are warming up. Those are the people who make this kind of mistakes, not Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs on the planet. And so again, the main reason why we are never going to be able to compete is that we are self-sabotaging ourselves and we do not have the mindset of champions. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, we were the team who was always asserting dominance on the opponents. There is no way, whether you play in Old Trafford or at your stadium, there is no way that you're going to keep control of the ball like this. We are going to wrestle that ball out of you to allow the Giggses, the Scholes, the Ronaldos, the Rooneys to express themselves. What is this? Is this Manchester United? They are frightened. They are frightened. And after the game against Brighton, I talked about regression and about how this Manchester United team, the moment they are put in the back foot, they usually crumble. And that's what happened against Manchester City. From the beginning, they got frightened. Holy shit, we are playing against much better players. Oh my God, we can't even compete with these players. And so that's it. They gave up. They gave up. And I remember there was a time there was a time in the game, I think it was when City were leading 5-1 or 6-1, I can't remember. Joao Cancelo misplaced the pass. It didn't lead to anything, he just misplaced it. And there were groans all over the Etihad Stadium. That means that now Manchester City's supporters have much higher standards than Manchester United supporters. They are the ones who hold the standards in British football, not Manchester United anymore. How times have changed. As our players were passing the ball around, The Manchester City fans were singing the ole, ole, ole. I remember Anthony had a shot and the Manchester City, the whole stadium just started clapping and cheering. Sarcastically, of course. That's how low we've fallen. And that's never going to change unless the players start playing with some pride and with bravery and honor. Get that ball. Don't let the opposition take the monopoly of the ball. We have to get that ball in order to allow our more creative players to express themselves. And that's what Manchester City are better at. Now, I understand it's a work in progress. This is no cause for concern for me because I always knew that we were the second best team whenever we are compared to Manchester City. It's not going to change anytime soon for the next 2 or 3 seasons. So we have to focus on the process and not on these short-term results. But still, like I've shown in these 2 sequences, it's not a matter of transfers only. It's a matter of mindset, of attitude. Just you have to outrun the opposition. You have to fight for the ball. You have to fight for your right to play. Cheers.